Hello, this is week 4, and I'm going to share my screen and pull up what we're going to work on this week. This week is all about theories of child guidance. Now, I know this is a classroom management course, but we've got to look at what some of the most well-known theorists believe about children's behavior and why they act a certain way. Therefore, the theories of child guidance. One of the first ones that we really look at, and this is one that I think is really important, is Uri Bronfenbrenner. And his theory of child guidance holds that the environment has an enormous influence on children's behavior. I mean, I'm sure all of you have seen kids come into the classroom that have a very difficult home life and then go on to have a very difficult school life, because you cannot have chaos in one area without it radiating into other areas as well. The theory from Bronfenbrenner starts out with the microsystem, which is all about the child. The child is the center of the microsystem, and then his or her family, the peers, parents, caretakers, teachers, you have a role in here too, and the neighborhood in general play a role in the child's microsystem. And the child also affects the microsystem because the child's behavior affects the parents, it affects the teachers and their peers. The mesosystem is the next piece of that microsystem, and that's really the relationships between the people in the child's microsystem, and those relationships do tend to affect the child. For instance, if you have a set of parents that's at each other's throats all night long, that affects the child. They become very tense and anxious hearing their parents fight and scream at one another. If they witness domestic abuse, that's a whole other issue that they have to be concerned about. And that certainly spills over into their behavior in the classroom. Then comes the child's exosystem, and that is another area of the child's living that is affected. And the exosystem is not one the child has any control over, but it's things like parents' long hours at work. Sometimes parents have to work 2 jobs to put food on the table. And kids are left with a babysitter or a daycare or, with some caretaker who may not be meeting all their needs. And that would certainly affect how they behave in the classroom. The child's macro system also has to do with the child's behavior, because the macro system is a little further out than the immediate, but it certainly has an effect. For instance, it's the attitudes in the home. Sometimes you have kids that come in your classroom and they use some naughty words that you don't want used in your classroom. That comes from the macro system. Religion comes in here, religious beliefs about gender, beliefs about, boys and girls shouldn't be playing together or whatever it is. But those beliefs are not anything that the child can affect. However, he or she is picking up those beliefs in the home. And then comes the chronos system, which is normative and non-normative events that occur in a child's life. Normative events are great events. They make everyone happy. Birth of a new child, graduations, weddings, all those wonderful things that people celebrate. But then you have the non-normative events that can affect children and their behavior, such as illness, death, tornadoes. When your house gets wiped out by a tornado, that certainly has a huge effect on the child and their behavior. Parents being deployed in the military, that's very stressful to children, and they often act out. Parents getting a divorce, all of those things can have an effect on children. So this is basically Bronfenbrenner's theory in a nutshell, but as you can see, that children's environment has a significant effect on children's behavior. So let's look at some of the other theorists. You've also got Maslow. Maslow is here in this little pyramid. And, Maslow really believed that children's needs have to be met before they can learn. And, that just makes sense. The first on bottom here is physiological needs. Obviously, children need to have food in their stomach. They need to have something to drink. They need to have adequate housing, adequate sleep. Without any of that, you're not going to be able to teach them a thing. So, and therefore, many of our schools have free lunch, free breakfast, and that's wonderful because it's meeting that physiological need that Maslow is talking about. The second level here being safety. Yeah, when children don't feel safe, that definitely affects their behavior. Say a child is from a family that's having an insecure living arrangement, they may be in a homeless shelter or living in a car. That really does affect the child and how well they can learn. And so does being loved and cared for, having self-esteem, feeling good about oneself. The self-actualization is not something that young children actually worry about. That's when you become older and you start to think back and see whether or not you've accomplished all you wish to accomplish. And then comes Erikson, and Erikson starts out with trust versus mistrust. And again, this is meeting children's needs, always meeting those needs. There's autonomy versus shame and doubt. This is the toddler stage. It has to do with toilet training. And let's face it, toddlers have very little control over anything. And many times it's a battle of the wills when it comes to that toilet training, because by golly, whether or not they go to the bathroom in their pants, that's in their control. And, toddlers have very little control over anything else. So, of course, they're going to take control of that. There's the initiative versus guilt. Well, this has to do with you in the classroom, because that's generally the preschool age child up to about kindergarten. And you're going to have children that are either feel real good about what they're able to do or not. And so I'm going to let you go through the rest of these in the book. And you do need to be aware. Trust me, if you're taking the OSAT, you have got to know these Bronfenbrenner systems. They're on there. Maslow is on there numerous times. Erikson is on there numerous times. And then the other thing I want you to look at is the behaviorist approach or social learning theory. You will definitely need to know a little bit about that. So make sure you read carefully in your textbook. And the other thing that I want you to, I put the treasure box here because it's the good job business. So many times we get in the habit of just saying, oh, good job, every time we see something the child has done. And I know people are just trying to be supportive, and that's great. But, when you overdo the good job, that's not good job. That you need to be highly specific when you give children praise. I like the way you use the color yellow. It makes everything so bright. I like the way you're making your letter A's. They're really clear and I can read them well. Let the child know that you actually noticed what they did. Because honestly, in a room full of kids, if you go around and you tell every single one of them good job, by the time you get to the 10th or 11th kid, they've caught on that, this is just something that you have. It's like a reflex. You just spout good job, good job, good job. It doesn't mean anything. So you've got to be kind of careful about that, even though it's, you want to be supportive, but be supportive in a way that lets children know that you really do value and recognize everything they're doing. Okay, so this week, after you finish reading chapter 2 in Marion, you're going to complete content quiz 1. If you have any questions about anything, please let me know. I'll be happy to set up a Zoom visit with you, and we'll talk about it. Have a great week. Bye.